Hey guys, so I've come into the bathtub to talk to you about something that, you know, I've been saying all this stuff about you might notice that I have like a lot of stuff about guys, and then I also have like a lot of chewing out, this and that about my pet peeves about chicks, and you know what? It occurred to me all of a sudden that I say all these such satirical things, and it's just like, take a breather. Wow. Silence and the dripping of the faucet. Just have a zen moment here. Wow. Can you feel that all around us? The presence of now. Being recorded for posterity. Wow. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about was what I think the ideal would be between men and women. And I say this, and I say this out of ignorance necessarily, because I don't think we have the ideal between men and women, and it's a journey, and it would have to be recreated with each generation and each time, and there are always going to be new challenges. And so I just like to say that ideally, and I can't tell you if this is true, but ideally men and women would be together. You see, they wouldn't they complement each other. They're obviously supposed to go together, and so but rather than like feeling like that's just like a horrible fate, I guess, I mean, it's really up to us in our society to try to find ways that innovative ways where, or just maybe they don't need to be innovative, maybe they're just natural ways that we can, that everyone can complement each other, and where women don't have to revile men for their constant sexual advances, and men don't have to think women are trying to demasculinate them by never seeming to pay any attention to the most obvious thing in the world, which is sex. And I know this is overstated, and I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but I do feel this, having said like a lot of this stuff I've said, that it would be nice if some sort of a idea of happiness could be out there. And I think that men and women are like one of the things we might be able to create happiness together. I mean, I can tell you a bunch of things that like people say, I can talk about Heinlein, who talks about how our society could spend a great deal more time trying to find ways for pregnancy to be more comfortable, and for women to be able to work, or do their jobs or not do their jobs, or raise their families, and for men to participate as freely and as naturally as possible, that it doesn't have to be these terrible choices that the choices women have to face with my career, or bearing a child, my career, or my family. I feel that we could try to mitigate that. I'm not saying we could solve it, but we could acknowledge it. We could create paths through society for it, and we could apply our ingenuity to it as our technology grows and our self-awareness grows, to try to find ways that. And I'm not trying to speak for things I know nothing about, but I am saying that I do think that we could find ways to respect and acknowledge women and men and human beings and people and our sexualities, and not condemn them unless we feel they're really hurting other people against their will. I really think that people should be together, and I'm from a background where I have very radical ideas about sex, and I can't tell you if any of them are actually true. I just have them, and that's where I am at this point. But I feel that I've read a lot of Freud, and I've read about totem and taboo, and he talks about and other people have talked about this, that the Greeks used to practice a family form of sex. If this is I haven't studied this, but it'd be it wouldn't be impossible for uncles to have sex with nieces and nephews, and also, and then Freud talks about sex between families as if it wouldn't be that. It's really not a genetic risk. They over-exaggerate the genetic risk. I'm not saying go out and do it, folks. But, I'm saying they over-exaggerate the genetic risk, because he thinks, and he has this whole book about why he thinks that it's actually become taboo for family members to have sex, and it's very phenomenologically interesting. He also talks about why people have such a fear of death, and what death actually means when we talk about people who've passed. So you probably think I'm just like, well, wow. But what I'm trying to say is that I think that, I mean, if you've heard of the Oedipus complex, which is one of the, most basic things in Freud's discussion of sex and its symbols in the unconscious mind, one of the things he talks about, this is very famous, is, the idea of Oedipus Rex, who was he, make a long story short, he didn't realize who his father and mother were, and he was trying to fight for, I guess, some cause, and so he, without realizing it, he kills his father, a la Star Wars here, folks. He kills his father and has sex with his mother. And but then it's revealed unto him that these are his parents, and so he blinds himself because he's so horrified. And this is like, because this story exists, like why would we even have a story like that, right? Freud uses it to say that, we all have an unconscious desire to have sex with our parents or our children or each other. And Spirit says that essentially all human relationships are sexual ones, which really flips my mind because, most people I meet, I would rather run as hard until I had a heart attack rather than have sex with them. But she claims that all human relationships are essentially sexual. And if you were to think about Freud and some things, I guess that would might make sense, but it's hard to face, I guess. Or maybe it's not, but it rings true, but that's what she says. So, and in light of that, and all these other things, see, like animals having sex with people, and people screwing trees, and dolphins having sex with people, and all sorts of stuff. You begin to feel like, well, be that as it may, obviously there's a lot out there that could be accomplished that simply has not been in the realm of human relationships. And I think that a lot of that is because of all these hang-ups. I mean, it's only beginning now to even talk about homosexuality with any kind of legitimacy, and you're always worried as a guy about, am I going to look gay? I mean, I was talking to some other guy, and 3 times we talked about, oh God, I think in that situation I may have looked gay, okay? And, and this wasn't a prude or anything, but, and then you have to have, the women who, do these incredibly contradictory things from a guy's perspective, like dressing like they're half nude and then resenting anyone feeling sexually attracted to them, whereas, on the other hand, if you're not sexually attracted to them, they feel insulted. So, there are little kinks that have to be worked out, and, and, I'm sure there's as much, I'm sure there's a great deal that I could learn to benefit from learning more about femininity, and I think there's a lot that, women can learn from masculinity, and I would just will say, I'll just try to wrap this up by saying, because I don't know how much concrete stuff I have to really offer here, but I'm just saying that, in my work as a photographer, several people have commented that I seem to do male and female models just as well. It doesn't appear like I favor one over the other, because most photographers, you see, they either only photograph guys for the most part, or they only photograph women. And so I photograph everyone. I photograph people, you see. I like to photograph people, and people are always going to have their sexuality, and that's always going to be shown in some way. So, I don't really see, I like to think of myself as bisexual, but I gotta tell you, nothing is scarier to other people, and nothing freaks them out more. I've talked to people who will parade and talk and advertise and scream from the rooftops that they're gay or les, but the last thing that they'll ever accept is a bisexual, and they'll always say that the bisexuals are the truly fucked up ones because they can't figure out which hole gets them off, you see, so they're on the fence. You gotta pick the hole that gets you off. I heard Dennis Miller say that once. And, I was just wondering why he felt that he had to put it so black and white, okay, because it just couldn't be anything else, right? So, that's just one more reason why I tend to feel kind of displaced everywhere I go, because, I've tried to, get it on, go through, those stupid, dating services for women and guys, and my experience basically was that women would never, ever contact me. But it was my mistake, because I put bisexual because they had 3 radio buttons. That's what I love about these dating sites, the radio buttons, and they're all radio buttons, okay? Are you hetero, straight, homo, bi? And I'm like, which radio button do I pick? Because I'm sort of looking for a relationship. I'm not looking for a garment, you know. So, you know, I'm like, okay, so I picked bi, and, you know, women just, no, 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 never. One woman, you know, looked at my profile, and so I messaged her and said hi, and she says, no, you're too free for me, she said. And, you know, and then the guys, well, either you got the sense that they were abusive, and you know, you know, I mean, it's weird, or you got the sense that the first question they would always ask is, how much money do you make? And then I would have to do this crazy dance about how I'm an artist, and you know, and if you really ran it long enough, eventually they'd shut up about it and go on to the next thing, which is, how long is your dick? And so anyway, it was always interesting that the money came before the dick, even. So, you know, and then, but what we'll really get to it is that after you spent like 20 minutes exchanging some of the most lewd things you could ever exchange, and, you know, things you never even imagined, okay, it would invariably turn out that they'd expect me to be on top, you see. And see, I would like, you know, I want to be on the bottom. And then once I said that, they would never speak to me again. And there was like this other gay guy I knew, and he was like, you know, dancing around, I agree with her. He said, oh yeah, what about me? Not you! God, no. And he just left. So I scare everyone, and you know, out of all the ways I could feel about that, I choose to be proud of it. So anyway, but I do think that there's just a lot of just incredibly amazing things that we could do, you know, as people with each other, that rightly or wrongly we don't do. But it's funny because we don't need to invent anything for them. We don't need to buy any land for it. It's all just part of our bodies. But, you know, I'm telling you, I just read this article about how they're really getting close now to genetic engineering, and I'm sort of wondering what they're going to do.